Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to E-fluence 2020 Part 2. This is a virtual conference on water and wastewater brought to you by the Philippine Young Water Professionals. And you're tuned in via our newly minted YouTube page, and we are streaming live from the safety and comfort of our homes because we are still on quarantine. And I hope everyone's safe while they're joining us this afternoon. So this is part 2 because we've had the first E-fluence last weekend and we had so much fun presenting 4 research papers for everyone to learn from. And this time around, we have 5 more of these amazing Filipino research outputs to share to you. And to kick things off, I would like to start with a few reminders. And that is, firstly, if you wish to receive a certificate of attendance for watching this webinar, please accomplish the webinar evaluation survey that we will post in the description part of this YouTube video after this webinar. And we will also disseminate that in the Facebook page of Philippine Young Water Professionals. Those who accomplish the webinar evaluation survey will also be eligible for a raffle. Unfortunately, this is only open for those who are in the NCR, Metro Manila, because of our transportation and the delivery limits. And I'd like to thank one of our presenters, Arjay, for sponsoring this raffle. And finally, those who are interested can also apply for IWA membership using a very special discount code for E-fluence participants. And you will receive that via email as well if you participate in the webinar evaluation survey. Finally, secondly, please also type your questions in the YouTube live chat. Please tell us where you are located, what your name is, and what your interests are in water and wastewater research so we could start interacting with you. We will be watching the YouTube chat for your questions and then throwing them to our speakers at the end of the presentations. And of course, you can also rewatch this live stream at any time at our YouTube channel. We will also post a link on the Facebook page. Please hit subscribe and like our videos so you can be updated with more exciting pipe content. This is our agenda for this afternoon. We will start off with opening remarks from Ryan De Soto of the Philippine Young Water Professionals, who will then introduce our guest speaker for today, who is Rihanna Gonzalez, speaking to us all the way from Sweden. And then we will kick off the research presentations, 5 of them, before concluding with a synthesis and Q&A portion to be led by Melvin Solomon, also of the Philippine Young Water Professionals. And finally, we will close this program with remarks from Chris Katang-Katang, our chairperson. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Ryan. Ryan De Soto is currently a PhD candidate in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department of the National University of Singapore. His PhD work is on a novel wastewater treatment configuration that reduces energy consumption for the treatment of domestic wastewater. His postdoctoral research fellowship will be in synthetic biology, where he would venture into an emerging field that would allow him to use bioengineered organisms for various applications such as environmental remediation and water wastewater treatment plant. Ryan is the project manager for the E-fluence 2020, as well as the director for International Community of the Philippine Young Water Professionals. Ryan?
Thanks, Yang. Hello.
Yep, can hear you.
Thank you, Yang. Yeah, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat dyan back home. I hope you're all doing well and are staying as healthy as possible. I would like to thank you all for tuning in to the second session of E-fluence. And actually, it has been 2 weeks since our lockdown ended here in Singapore. And we finally started meeting friends and life is slowly getting back to normal with a few precautions here and there. So it was probably the longest time that I have not visited the lab, and all my scheduled presentations this year have all been postponed. So this was when I first thought of E-fluence. And since we cannot really travel out and physically attend conferences during this COVID-19 pandemic, the Philippine Young Water Professionals has thought of an activity that would allow people in the water industry to still be able to share their work with their peers in the community. So E-fluence is an online knowledge sharing platform that aims to give an avenue for researchers to present their work on water and wastewater. We endeavor for individuals in the academic and professional sectors to have a network of water champions for future collaborations. And in the long run, even when this pandemic is over, we would like to reach for those who are not able to attend conferences physically due to financial constraints and other reasons. So for our session today, the theme of the presentations is about environmental monitoring and assessment. And we have in our presence Ms. Rihanna Gonzalez to open the event with a message. Rihanna Gonzalez is currently the Youth Engagement Specialist for the Global Water Partnership, or GWP, based in Stockholm, Sweden. She has over 10 years of experience working with the Water Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, with focus on policy and governance, watershed management, and the integration between freshwater and coastal environments. As an active advocate for effective youth partnerships to support sustainable development, she has promoted the effective inclusion of young people at national, regional, and international levels in the decision-making process on climate change and water, especially highlighting the unique experiences of small island developing states, or SIDS. Her work has been facilitated through various groups such as the Caribbean Youth Environment Network, the Commonwealth Climate Change Network, and the IWA Emerging Water Leaders Committee. In 2016, Rihanna was recognized for her achievements in the water sector as the recipient of the IWA Young Leadership Award. And she also holds an MSc in Coastal Engineering and a BSc in Environmental and Natural Resources Management. So let us all welcome Ms. Rihanna Gonzalez.
Thank you, Ryan. Very happy to be here. It is 7 a.m. in Stockholm, so good morning from here, and well, good afternoon to you guys. Yeah, we are still as well in quarantine. Well, I'm in Sweden, so technically we never really had a lockdown, so things are a bit different on my end. So to just start, I'm going to share my screen and start my presentation. Okay, I think it is now open for everyone to see. Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm going to talk about a little bit about my water story and how did I get to where I am right now in Sweden as a youth engagement specialist and talking to you guys here today. So before I do that, I would like to let you know a little bit about the Global Water Partnership where I am currently working. It is a multi-stakeholder action network, an intergovernmental organization dedicated to working with countries towards an equitable, sustainable, and efficient way of managing water resources. So we're all over the globe, just ensuring that we have to attain water security. This map just simply highlights our representation across the world. We have over 3,000 partners, and we are located in over 65 countries around the world. One of these are actually in Southeast Asia. Our regional water partnership is located in Jakarta in Indonesia, and we have 8 country water partnerships, as you can see there, in Cambodia, Indonesia, Myanmar, Philippines as well. So of course, we're open to connect with all of you. So today we're gonna talk about watershed protection and environmental monitoring. So in terms of that, why do we do watershed protection? And the thing is, to protect something, you need to understand it and you need to know how it works. And this is where environmental monitoring comes. And so this is what I did back home at the Water Authority. My role consisted of collecting data on the field. This included hydrological, physico-chemical, biological for both ground and surface water. Then to use this data collected to tell a story. It was like giving the environment a voice, because through water, we could tell a lot about what is happening in the wider watershed. and then using this information to steer policy decisions and also for environmental justice. So we would use water quality samples to identify companies who have not been able to meet our legislation at that point. So a lot of my work was going out in the field, collecting data, but then also coming back and speaking to companies, speaking to decision makers across different ministries and letting them know what is happening out there, how can we make it better, and also to create policy documents to guide the country to improve watershed management. This is a unique position, I would say, especially for a young person, because usually people do not take young people seriously when given this high level where you have to make influential decisions that could impact the country. But in terms, I thought it was a really good opportunity to show that young people we have this type of background, we have this type of voice, we are very confident to show how we can make this world better. So not only did I do this at a job, but I also did this voluntarily. So 24/7, I was a water advocate, doing a lot of things, especially in the NGO world, lobbying, advocating, picketing, protesting, and trying to make our voice heard in terms of the future we want when it came to water, especially educating the younger population. So this came towards a project called the Adopt a River program, where we were looking at local watersheds and trying to facilitate participation of various stakeholders aimed at improving the status of rivers and watersheds throughout our island. The unique thing about the Adopt a River program was bringing together stakeholders who did not usually get together. We identified NGOs that would like to do work, who are doing reforestation, cleanup exercises, doing water quality monitoring, and connected them with private sector institutions who were willing to give them funding, technical resources to execute work. One of the things that we put out was actually an app. And we would go to schools and teach young kids how to do water quality monitoring, give them test kits, and they would use this app, upload the information, upload pictures, and it was a free app. It did not need internet connection for it to be done. It was geo-referenced, and the young kids were actually super excited to see what this meant and what their river, where they bathed, where they played, what it meant, was it clean? And they became our young water warriors in different watersheds. So it was actually highlighted for an award and in our country, and it got a lot of funding and has been, we are aiming, well, back home, aiming to get it up the islands to different countries. So this was one of the major things for me to execute in terms of my water profession. After having all this experience, GWP, where I currently work, actually submitted my name for the IWA award. And before that, I did not know anything about IWA. And surprisingly, or luckily, I was selected to be the recipient of the 2016 Young Leadership Award. And from there, I had a whirlwind experience in IWA, being part of the Emerging Water Leaders Steering Committee. I became part of the Strategic Council, experience being a program committee member for various congresses and conferences of IWA. Became a keynote speaker on a congress, and of course met a lot of great people who work in the water sector who have influenced me and my experiences. So it's just kind of, I wanted to highlight this in terms of sometimes you may be working in a small space and you may not understand how to get to the global level, but it is possible. I come from a tiny island in the Caribbean, less than 1.5 million people, and I have actually been able to reach a global level. So then moving on, looking at how can youth help with basically watershed protection and watershed monitoring. Youth have a very opportune space in terms that they can be advocates, they can be researchers, they can even be regulators, and of course, innovators in this space. The information collected and the drive and passion that young people have is enough to make such an impact. I have been an advocate, I will still be an advocate. I've been a researcher, I've been in labs, you know, late in the night looking over chemicals, looking at data, going into identifying microbes and looking at pollution levels. I have done diving, I have done a lot in terms of water. And then it moved into when you go into have the opportunity to be a regulator, you then see what that information can be used for and the power that data has and how that can actually influence and change decision makers that would in actuality change how your country functions and how they look at water. And of course, we cannot move away from the fact of innovators and they using this information to make our life better and create solutions to problems that we have in terms of access to water, making water cleaner with as little problems, with as little resources as possible. I've seen a lot of young people identifying ways to clean water just from a pen, just from filtering and making it mobile to reach places that did not usually have access to clean water. So I'm hoping that young people see that they have the power to make a difference. From here now, I have now at GWP, I now have an opportunity now to reach youth across the globe. And within GWP, the Global Water Partnership, we have identified 4 areas that we want to do work in. And this looks at capacity building. We have summer schools that are occurring in the Central Europe. We have internships at our various global offices as well as our regional offices. We do workshops, competitions, awareness raisings. We support a lot of youth organizations to give them access and resources to attend conferences, push their media advocacy on our website as well. We mobilize youth through youth-led projects. We have a website for Youth for Water and Climate, where we give grant funding to start small projects, and we build a community of youth that could support each other. And using all this, we make this available to all our experts. We have an entire network of experienced decision makers, all based either in your region or in your country. So you have targeted mentorship, targeted coaching, if you'd like. And these are the things that the Global Water Partnerships could bring. This is this value to you, young people. And in closing, I would just like to highlight a project that is happening right now in Southeast Asia from our Jakarta office called SEEDS, which is a social entrepreneurship education and development solution. It is a competition for young entrepreneurs that is focusing on making change happen. Ideally, it was supposed to be launched this year, but due to COVID, it has been on a pause, but it is still moving forward. So I would just like to kind of put this out there for you guys to know that it's coming. And of course, I'll share the information with you through Yang and Ryan to give you guys more information if you're interested on that. But that's it for me. I think that's my 10 minutes. So I would just like to say thank you. If you'd like any more information on Global Water Partnership, or you need any information on our internships and other opportunities, feel free to contact me at rihannagonzalez@gwp.org or connect through Ryan and Yang. So thank you everyone for taking the time, and back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rihanna. That was such an inspiring message to share, not just to our researchers, but also to our viewers. I love what you say about giving water and nature a voice through our research. And indeed, you are one success story and an inspiration for going from local and creating a more regional and up to global impact. And we sure do hope that E-fluence 2020 is a platform for our researchers to do just that. Once again, thank you so much, Rihanna, on behalf of the Philippine Young Water Professionals.
No problem.
Great. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker then, who will be presenting this afternoon. So we will kick off with Arjay Hosmillo. Arjay is a chemical engineer with vast experience in global regulatory research for consumer goods, supporting and honing skills in Industry 4.0, currently a consultant for various projects supporting environmental compliance of MSMEs, and a remote data analyst for a small US IT services firm. A passionate volunteer, a climate change data analyst for Climate Educate Project, a flagship project of Alpha Team Organization, or ATO Philippines. RJ?
Hi.
Hi.
Magandang hapon. Thank you Yang for the introduction and for accepting my research with your group. So, so I'm about to share my screen now for my presentation. So, okay. So I think, yeah. All right. So, give me some minutes. It's just. All right. So my research or the group research was conducted 10 years ago. So this is just a reminder na baka you will see some updated list. But yeah, you can just message me or comment down below sa YouTube channel natin for that reason. And then let's start learning and sharing the knowledge na meron tayo, which is that's the main essence of E-fluence 2020. So basically, our research is entitled Biosorption as a remediation technique for the removal of lead in aqueous simulation solutions using jackfruit leaves. So it is now under my school, Adamson University, under College of Engineering, Chemical Engineering department. So this is the journey of our research. So it's so the journey now of our research, it started on the leaves, syempre, and then we dried it using oven, and then we tried to modify that from putting some hydrochloric acid 0.1 molar and then water, and then mayroon kami na remain untouched. So this will be very vital on the results of our research. And then this going down as the process of kung paano namin siya ginawa sa lab before. So definitely we have our parameters like initial concentration, pH, agitation, and the contact time of the leads on the solution namin na merong heavy metal, which is lead. And then, yeah, the last results will be the paper that we submitted during that time. So, why biosorption? So, bakit nga ba we opt to choose biosorption? So, first, I did the topic pala is recommended by our former chairperson ni Adamson University. Hi, Dr. Valencia. So, she's working for organomineral. So, this is one of the results or the suggested lead, and then in-explore na lang namin yung capability ni jackfruit leaves to move forward. So biosorption is as of during that time it's cost efficient since we are just optimizing power of waste material, which is alam na leaves is just a waste ng jackfruit pag natuyo. So yep, and then we just
RJ, could you please share your slides?
oops, okay, so this one is better, Yang.
There you go. Yes. Thank
All
you.
right, sorry.
Please go
So
on.
dapat pala hindi ko siya nilipat. Anyways, yeah. So hindi niyo to nakita. Sorry for that. So this one is just the journey na in-explain ko kanina. Just the bird's eye view of the whole process. And then this one is why we chose biosorption as our working process noon. So if you will notice on the graph, this is related bit namin. So we analyze lead. So definitely it's the biosorption na yung applicable sa kanya, lead, and doon kami nag-focus. And then the parameters na you are seeing on the top is mostly the parameters na ginamit namin for the experiment. And now I will moving on the methodology. So this is the research method kung paano namin siya ginawa. So basically, kumuha kami ng leaves, pinatuyo, then dinurog, and then minodify, which HCl, then may remain na sorbent, unmodified, and then we need to choose if saan siya mag-best magpipit na pH level. And then, moving forward is the whole process of our research. So the next will be so this one is the other methodology na ginawa namin. So this is the end results na kailangan namin magawa within the process. So if you will notice, yung vitals dyan is yung dulo, the kinetic, and then the isotherm, because we use that data to know kung ano yung capacity of the jackfruit leaves for the removal of lead in aqueous solution. So by the way pala guys, aqueous solution is just water. So nakalimutan kong sabihin na we put some limitation on our research, though we are inspired ng wastewater na may lead or heavy metals, but for the sake na this is just an undergrad research, so we stick on the aqueous solution. So it's just water and the lead. And then for the jackfruit leaves, biosorption, it's include microbial activities. So we just stated doon na the research is purely the natural of the jackfruit. So hindi namin tinouch si bacteria, algae, fungi na present kay jackfruit. And then you will notice, pinatuyo namin siya. So some of the bacteria probably is namatay na. But syempre may natitira pa doon. So if someone wants to dig deeper with the research, probably they can consider that area for microorganism activities, the algae, the fungi, na present kay jackfruit leaves. And then this one is just the design of the experiment. So you will see how many replications and number of runs that we considered, because this is highly data dependent. So our research advisor before, Engineer Galban, and the research, yung prof namin is Dr. Mission. He opted to na marami kaming samples. It's very important na you have so many samples para you can see instantly the results of that. Mas marami kayong data na nagagather much better. So we have the number of samples is shown here, and the number of runs na ginawa namin. And then we use the AAS for the detection in heavy metal or lead for the remaining solution. So, so this one would be sorry. This one now, I'm now jumping on probably the results of our experiment. So mostly pH and the bioabsorbent modification. So for the pH, we found out that the biosorption capacity of lead is best at pH 7.7. So morely nasa gitna siya using the unmodified jackfruit leaf. So we found out na the increase ng removal is from 15.3% to 72.6%. So if you will notice, ba't nga ba namin minodify si jackfruit leaves? Kasi some of the related leaf nagsasabi na by using acid on the sorbent or dun sa medium nyo, pwede niya ma-activate yung ibang sites or yung binding sites na tinatawag nila. Pero from this one, we observe na it's okay na wag mo na lang i-modified kasi the results show na it's okay na hindi mo siya i-modified and then the best will be pH. So you will also notice medyo putol yung pH level natin kasi alam natin na hanggang 14 si pH. This is because during pag medyo mataas na yung pH under 8, the lead hydroxide or hydroxy, nagiging insoluble na siya. So, mahirap na siyang i-analyze kapag nag-precipitate na si lead sa sample nyo. And then, yun. Kaya hanggang 7 lang yung tinarget namin pH. And then, for modification nga, we recommended na just leave it as is. Parang, wag yun na lang i-modified. So, the reason probably is the reactions of the acids on the functional group na kay jackfruit leaves. And based on our research, jackfruit leaves is composed of cellulose and hemicellulose compound. So it's a polymer. And then the functional group na present for the leaves is more on hydroxy group and CH group. So, and then so on and so forth. So the effect of the initial ion concentration is this one. So the percent removal of lead decreases from 70.3 to 68.8 as concentration increases from 30 to 100. And then the metal uptake naman increases from 23.6 to 66.2 as concentration of lead increases from 30 to 100. So this is just a graph ng removal and the metal uptake. And then one of our parameters then is the contact time kasi hindi naman forever nakababad si jackfruit leaves dun sa solution natin. So, they will come a time na mag-equilibrium siya and this is yung findings namin. Biosorption efficiency is increased rapidly in the initial stage of reaction and reach equilibrium in 120, 140, and 160 minutes for 160 and 30 ppm lead samples respectively. So, mabilis siya nung una and then habang tumatagal, nare-reach na niya yung equilibrium niya na makikita niya later kung ano yung naging results of that. So this one naman is how we analyze the data. So we need to know kung saan siya magpipit ng model sa isotherm model. So we just adapted the Langmuir and then the Fugleaf adsorption isotherm. By the way, the process pala na ano namin is adsorption siya, hindi ab. So meaning add more on kumakapit siya sa surface nung jackfruit leaf. So for adsorption isotherm studies, so tama naman na ito yung ginamit namin. The special data is the R value. So, kung saan siya nagpipit. And then, Langmuir, if I'm not mistaken, is a hyperbolic equation. And then, the Prodlich naman is empirical. So, dun lang sila nagkaiba in terms of equation. And then, yun nga, sabi ko nga, this is, meron naman na to. So, we don't invent the process. We just pick our model dito sa dalawa. Then, we found out na the best model will be the Langmuir isotherm model. So Langmuir is more on hyperbolic and then this is used for the uptake capacity or nung metal, the QE yung tawag namin doon. And then dito pala siya sa kinetic studies. So the QE dito naman this is if you will pursue chemical engineering or chem. you will appreciate this one kasi this will involve how the molecules moving on the experiment and the reaction. So basically, this is just a modeling. So we opt to use the pseudo first order kinetic model and the second order kinetic model. So marami pa yan. I think may third and then may zero pa nga ata. So anyways, and then we used naman larger green pseudo first order nga for this. And this is the result. So the values of QE from the pseudo second order kinetic model were in close in agreement. So we found out na it's a pseudo second order kinetic model, yung absorption process niya doon sa experiment. So this one, if you will dig deeper, dito na mo malalaman yung mechanism of the nung nangyari na reaction sa kanila. So kung kanina, it's more on the na-uptake or the sumamang lead kay jackfruit. Now, ito naman is yung mechanism na niya, kung ano ba yung mga naging function yung mga functional group sa loob. And then, well, we need to conclude our research. So we found out that the leaves have a high efficiency of removal lead ion in aqueous solution. And then the percent removal is yun na-share ko kanina na the best would be unmodified at pH 7, then 68.7 to 92.9% removal. So, yep. So, just leave it alone na unmodified. And for the data nga, is the Langmuir ang nag-fit sa kanya because we found out that the absorption capacity using Langmuir model is 94.3396 milligram per gram. And then for the kinetic modeling naman, it's the larger green pseudo second order na nag-fit for the data of our biosorption. And then the kinetic modeling is derived basically from the assumption of crude leak and to describe lead biosorption accurately. So we never invented the model, we just fit lang namin yung data namin dyan. And then our recommendation during that time, noong 2010, is additional work in order to determine the biosorption of other metal ions to optimize the overall process and identify the different functional groups responsible for the metal ion binding. So, ibig sabihin lang, we recommended na sana kung may nag-adopt or may kumuha na related lead is totoong wastewater sample na yung gamit nila, hindi na lang aqueous solution para mas ma-target mo yung wastewater industry. And then other studies may focus on effect of biosorbent dosage, effect of multi-metal competition, and possibility of metal recovery. So, yep. So, sabi ko nga, moving forward, after 10 years, what's next with this research? So, we found out some data na jackfruit is one of our, parang meron tayong data for Pilipinas. So, this will just a representation na may availability ng kung may jackfruit, syempre may leaves tayo. So may data na tayong makukuha na galing PSA. And then I do some research kung saan ba maraming jackfruit leaves sa Pilipinas. And I found out na Eastern Visayas, specifically Tacloban, is to be PH jackfruit capital noong 2018. So if ever, I know some of my friends is nandito sa Eastern Visayas. So they probably want to maximize yung dami ng jackfruit leaves dyan. And this one naman is during 2010, they have this GIS mapping doon sa mga nakatanim na jackfruit sa Eastern Visayas. So the data is already there kung saan nila pwedeng kunin yung mga leaves. Kasi kailangan leaves yung gamitin. Though, yep. So Eastern Visayas will be the easy target for the production of the leaves. And then, the other one is, syempre, the loss naman namin during that time, parang ang stimulus lang namin is yung report ng heavy metal contamination sa Marilao, Bulacan. Pero now, dahil 2010 na-update na din yung DAW natin. It's Water Quality Guidelines and General Effluent. So, if you will dig deeper dun sa DAW, meron doon inclusion which is significant parameters. So we choose lead and then we found out na under that daw, merong 27 industry na regulated as of the moment. So this is just a full visual. And then manufacturing, mining, electric, gas, blah, 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 supply, and wholesale retail, yung common na nire-regulate ng Pilipinas for lead. And if you want to know kung di naman lead yung meron sa planta nyo or lugar nyo, you can just go to the link and search for the significant parameters, and then it will just automatically computed kahit hindi mo nabasahin yung buong log. Okay, so this one is just a cool mode model kasi nga agitation. So this is just an action impeller. So kailangan gumagalaw si leaves kung ilalagay natin. Then if you will observe, on my recommendation, it might be wrong or right. Una, assess the wastewater sa inyo kung may lead ba or mataas yung lead. Then the next, kung gusto mong gamitin si jackfruit leaf sa production nyo or sa wastewater nyo, ang feeling ko na dapat mo siyang ilagay is after neutralization tank. Kasi yung pH level mo doon is more likely nasa basic na 7. And we all know that heavy metals, pag may heavy metals sa wastewater mo, highly acidic yan. Sabi ko nga, the best level na mataas yung removal natin is on pH 7. So after neutralization tank, then may tank ilagay mo doon, syempre, yung wastewater mo, lagyan mo ng leaves, granulated, and then paikutin mo, then the next level. And just a reminder, hindi natin sinasabi na wag niyong alisin yung buong wastewater treatment facilities nyo. This is just an add-on para hindi maging mabigat naman dun sa mga usual nyo na ginagawa for wastewater, especially kung may lead na content. And then nasaan na ba yung mga group mates ko? Probably they're watching. So yeah, this is just a group. And yeah, thank you for listening, and hopefully we learn about our research. So yeah.
Thank you very much, RJ. That's a fantastic demonstration of the potential of readily available resources and indigenous materials for further wastewater treatment. And it does beg a lot more digging deeper into wastewater treatment. Thank you. That was a fantastic first presentation by RJ. And we will proceed to our second speaker, who is Marish Cuenca. Marish is a senior high school research coordinator of Samuel Christian College in General Trias City, Cavite, a former science research assistant in Cavite State University main campus of P12M surface water supply and economic feasibility study of bulk water in Cavite. She is an esteemed SHS faculty for research subjects and earth science of SCC. She obtained her BS degree in environmental science in Cavite State University main campus in May 2017 as CHED scholar. She is currently on her master's degree in De La Salle University das Marinas, taking Master of Science in Environmental Science. Marish?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
So I will just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see it well.
Okay. So let me now proceed with my presentation. So our research entitled Assessment of Water Stations through Physico-Chemical and Bacteriological Testing Parameters in Barangay Navarro, General Trias City, Cavite. We're luckily because we already finished the study before the lockdown. So this is under the Samuel Christian College from Senior High School Department under my students, researchers, Barsaga, De Los Santos, Gokong, Regonda, and also my technical critic partner who is Mr. Sansari. Okay, for the introduction, water is essential in our lives, and we know that it is required to drink 8 to 10 glasses a day and to stay healthy or to stay hydrated. However, due to the rapid urbanization, increasing of the population and the urbanization, the water pollution is being affected now as one of the major global problems. So, wherein it is according to the World Health Organization 2008, there is 844 million people all around the world that is no access to the clean and safety drinking water. So as a result, these diseases like diarrhea causing the more 4,500 children going to die every day. So in order to ensure the health and safety from the drinking water, the Department of Health here in the Philippines prescribe a standards and guidelines to protect the customers' health. So this includes the examination, the monitoring, the water quality sampling with the specific parameters. So that is provided by the PNSDW, or also known as the Philippine National Standard for Drinking Water. And it gives us the urge to study or to gather informations and also to spread awareness regarding drinking water present to the community. So here is the Barangay Navarro map, wherein I did not include the points of the water refilling station since it is very confidential between the owners and the researchers. So for the objectives of this study aims to assess and evaluate every water refilling stations in Barangay Navarro and General Trias City, Cavite, and it is to ensure the safety of the public's health. So specifically, this study aims to determine the water refilling stations, of course, the water treatment that is being used by the water refilling stations, the examine and measure of the water quality from the selected water refilling station who are agreed with between the researchers. Also, these are the parameters given by the PNSDW, which is the physico-chemical testing parameters with the pH level, temperature, the TDS or total dissolved solid, the residual chlorine. Also, the bacteriological testing parameters, which is everyone's concern, the heterotrophic plate count, the total coliform and fecal coliform, and of course, the specific bacteria, which is the E. coli. So it also provides a statistical report from the physico-chemical and bacteriological assessment and compare it to the standard given by the PNSDW. So for the data gathering procedure, so this study is conducted from November 2019 to January 2020. So this is a gathered drinking water from 6 different water refilling stations where it is conducted through a face-to-face interview between the owners and each refilling stations who are agreed to be part of this study. So here is the actual testing of the water refilling stations done by my students. So 2 liters of water is provided by sterile bottle that is provided by the DOST laboratory located in Trece, who are responsible in testing the parameters. So the guidelines is based from the given parameters of the laboratory. So let's now proceed with the results and discussion. So as you can see from the graph, the yellow one is the station 6 who is the registered in the Department of Trade and Industry. It is the only station who is registered with DTI, and the rest of the stations is registered in City Hall of General Trias, Cavite. So for the years of operation, the station 1 is started from 12 months, which is 2018. Station 2 for 2017. Station 3 in the year 2019 with 11 months operating. The Station 4 and 5, who is both 3 years operating, and Station 6, which is a new drinking water station, which is started 2019. So this is the time of testing, but according to the PNSDW, they should have every month of testing and also 6 months for the physico-chemical. So as the results, they are all updated with their testing, but the other stations are not nearly aware that they are not, they should be testing their physico-chemical testing. So the recent testing is very updated from October and November. So the sources of water that most of the water refilling stations are came from the deep well, and the source is 50% of the water refilling station and 33% for the district water, while 17% is extracting through groundwater. So according to Espinelli 2016, this is the ideal water treatments that the water refilling station should have. So this is have a multi-sediment filter wherein it is responsible for the solid particles to be filtered out. Also the reverse osmosis, the activated carbon, the ultraviolet lamp, which is very responsible in disinfecting of the bacteria in water, the carbon filter, and also the ozone generator. But here is the water treatment that is present to the different stations. So based on the result, the multimedia carbon is the most used water treatment facility in the refilling stations, followed by the ultraviolet water sterilizer, which has a 3 quantity, wherein it is good since this is merely focuses with the disinfecting of the bacteria. So let's go now with the physico-chemical. So for the pH level and temperature, as shown to the results, they are all past to the standard since they have a very neutral water, which is 7, and past remarks of the temperature. So for the total dissolved solids, which is measuring the inorganic matters and the small amounts of organic matter which are present to the solution of the water, they are all passed with the range from the PNSDW that should have a 500 milligram per liter, wherein the highest amount is 386, which is already passed. So for the residual chlorine, they are all having a failed results. So the residual chlorine is being used to sterilize and reduce the waterborne diseases in a drinking water. So according to the World Health Organization 2017, the too much intake of this chlorine has a harmful effect in our terms of breathing problems and taste problems in the water. So they're all exceeded with a 0.2 to 0.5 milligram per liter of residual chlorine. So next is for the bacteriological, which is everyone concerned, no? So the presence of the bacteriological organisms in the water is very corresponding with the source of diseases. So it must be free with the pathogenic diseases, the pathogenic bacteria, viruses, protozoans, the helminths, which are responsible from a waterborne diseases. So let's now proceed with the heterotrophic plate count. So the HPC, which is one station got a failing result, which is 950. That should have, according to DPNSDW, less than 500 CFU per ml or colony forming unit per ml. Next one is for the total coliform, wherein it should not be equal to 1.1 based on the standard, but rather lower than 1.1. So the 3 stations got a failing results. And this group of bacteria from a people and animal, as well as the environmental sources, is causing illnesses that is from a most probable number per 100 ml. Next is from the fecal coliform. So this fecal coliform is a fecal contamination from human and animals. So with the presence of this pathogenic bacteria, it can cause infections or other diseases. So as a result, again, 3 stations with the highest amount with 2.6 most probable number per 100 ml. So again, station 4 is having a failing result. And in a specific bacteria, which is Escherichia coli or the E. coli, is the presence of fecal matters which causes the diarrhea, the UTI or urinary tract infections, the pneumonia, and the other clinical infections. according to MADAPA 2019. So again, two stations have a failing results. And again, it is station 4. So going back to the conclusion, in terms of water sources, the water refilling station prefers groundwater source and 3 stations prefer a deep well source. The source of the remaining station is the district water where it is the safest and the most preferred source for drinking water. So the most frequent water treatment used by the respondents are ultraviolet water sterilizer and multi-carbon or multimedia carbon. So these two water treatment systems are included in the ideal features of a water refilling stations. So for the physico-chemical parameters, the values of a water drinking quality such as pH and TDS from all samples collected are found within the recommended limits of the PNSDW. But based from the result of the drinking water samples, they are reasonably good with the physicochemical quality, with the exemption of the high amount of residual chlorine, which is all stations got the failing results and exceeded to the standard value given by the PNSDW. So for the bacteriological parameters, some drinking water samples had high heterotrophic plate count or HPC with a high total coliform count with a high amount of fecal coliform. So 1 out of 6 water refilling stations failed for the test of HPC, while 3 stations failed for the total coliform and fecal coliform as well. So that's why it is recommended to boil the water so that they can have a safety drinking water. So for the analysis of the E. coli, the major indicator of the presence of fecal contamination is needed. So 2 out of 6 water refilling stations exceeded the limit value of the E. coli set by the PNSDW. So for the last slide, furthermore, DOH must be conducted a random test to assess the drinking water quality to ensure the public's health so that the owners of the drinking water refilling stations must follow the right procedure and maintenance set by the officials so that they must have the complete and ideal water treatment system that could be installed with their facilities. So these are all needed to ensure the safety of the customers as well as the people in their surroundings. So I want to end this slide with a quote that water is life and clean water means health by Audrey Hepburn. So that will be all. Thank you po.
Thank you so much, Marish. And wow, those are alarming results from your research, considering that these are this is a public health issue, as you rightfully mentioned, and we do hope that our local city officials do a better job at monitoring these water refilling stations.
Thanks to my students since they are very interested in knowing those results. So I just like to engage more researchers regarding water researchers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so they are now
Thank
watching.
Fantastic.
Yes,
I
thank
could see it in the
you.
comments, and we're very proud of you. Thanks once again, Marish. And we'll entertain questions. Again, a reminder to our audience, if you have any questions, please type them in the YouTube live chat. Thanks to our first 2 speakers, let's proceed to our third, Merry Jean Caparas of Visayas State University. Merry Jean is in her final year in Master of Science in Development Sociology at the Visayas State University in Baybay City. She finished her undergraduate at the same university with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Environmental Management, where she received the scholarship for the Areas Plus Erasmus Mundus program that allows her to spend her second year at the Universidade do Minho, Portugal. Her published works are centered on water and gender and the effect of anthropogenic activities in the physico-chemical characteristics of the river system. Merry Jean?
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Wait, I'll share my screen. Good afternoon. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep, very good. Please proceed.
Hello.
Yes, we can see your screen, Mary Jean.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you see my screen na po?
Yes, we can see it. Please proceed.
Okay. Okay. So I will be presenting my ongoing study on the effects of sand and gravel extraction to the human right to water and its related guaranteed right to food in the province of Leyte. And then this is the outline of my presentation. We'll start with an overview and we'll end with some conclusions and recommendations. Okay. The Philippine Executive Order number 27, series of 2017, employed the whole government and whole of society approach to the country's attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. All these SDGs are mapped in priorities of the 2017-2020 Philippine Development Plan. Thus, the country's attainment of SDGs will pave the way for the achievement of our long-term vision, the Ambition natin 2040, which envisions for matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay para sa lahat ng mga Pilipino. And here is SDG 1, ending poverty, and SDG 2, ensuring that all households have enough food on their table, are on the core of the Philippine priorities. In achieving this, the Philippine government sees infrastructure development as a solution to generate more jobs and to solve transportation issues and generate lower prices of goods and services. However, in Eastern Visayas, especially in the province of Leyte, where public infrastructure remains a structural challenge, this become a huge opportunity for concentration and connectivity. However, with the increase of the construction of infrastructure driven by the Build program, it likewise triggered the demand for a massive volume of sand and gravel. Considerably here in the province of Leyte, in municipalities which are among the rice-producing municipalities in the province. This initial image further raised the apparent need to weigh the worth and the cost of our notion of development to the human water for food. And thus, this study aims to examine the way in which sand and gravel extraction interfaces on the framework of human right to water for food, as it attempts to evaluate the nature and magnitude of social ties among stakeholders, and to assess the effect of sand and gravel on water availability for agriculture, particularly on the rice production. Article 95 of the Presidential Decree 1067, otherwise known as the Water Code of the Philippines, stated that water use priorities in the countries are geared toward domestic and municipal use, including water for irrigation. Consequently, with the massive increase in the demand of raw sand and gravel aggregates for the country's infrastructure project, the National Irrigation Administration in Region 8 estimated an area of 15,613 hectares service area affected by the sand and gravel operations, which is amounting 524,997,000, that in the province of Leyte alone, which is approximately lost a volume of 41,144 metric tons of rice production in 2017. This service area affected by the sand and gravel operation is estimated to be more than 50% higher than the service area damaged by the Typhoon Haiyan in 2013 in the entire region. In this study, only used public data along with participant observation. There is a limitation on the availability of data necessary for this research. Other factors that may influence on the human right to water for food are not considered in the study, and the right to food is only measured by the rice productivity. In order to frame the logic of this study, I used the metabolic drift theory, which is first coined by Karl Marx and developed by John Foster in 1999. This theory serves as a unified foundation for examining the dialectic of the nature and society relationship. It looks at on the complex and dynamic exchanges between human beings and nature. Basically, it recognizes the existing relationship of the society under the sphere of imagined order in the environment. Recognize that nature, that human bodies engage in metabolic exchanges with non-human nature. And let's say, for example, we have this idea of development. This is our, just an example, no? This is our notion of development, building modern buildings, modern cities. And in order to achieve this, we need to make use of something from the environment, an ecosystem component. So we have to extract something from the environment and transform it into a resource that could satisfy our human economic wants and to realize this notion of development. And upon the realization of this, as assumed, we will earn something out of it, we'll benefit out of it, which is in this time, it is measured by the economic exchange, which is the economic use value for our current medium of exchange at this moment, the money. And then the realization of this development, the profit, and then the advancement doesn't mean that it will end in here, because society itself is in a continuous process of becoming. So thus, this realization will only advance further. And then there might be a need for us to invest more in order to make use of the ecosystem component that is within our natural environment. No? And it is not harmful. It does not need to be particularly harmful, because that is how development should work. And we are all into development. Sino po bang hindi, di ba? But the realization, but along the history, no? Now, in the continuous process of development, the way we realize, the way human organize our thoughts, the way we organize our thoughts. It is a challenge that we might fracture and forcibly rearrange the natural process of metabolism, considering that we could no longer return back the original state of the ecosystem component that we withdraw on the initial process. And then that creates the metabolic rift as defined in this theory. So this study basically look at how this rift compels on the larger community that is supposed to be the initial beneficiaries of our concept of development. And to frame the concept, I make use of the water, energy, food security analysis framework developed by the International Institute for Sustainable Development in 2013. It enables a place-based analysis for main indicators of human rights, which are the availability, access, supporting infrastructure, supporting institutions, and in policies. Now, for this study, I modified this framework in a way to define the principal constituent that form the interlink of the component of the interest. Now, the potential impact of sand and gravel extraction on water for food. I make use with the measure for human rights, the availability, access, supporting infrastructure, supporting institution, and policies. And these variables are measured with the parameters written here. And for the data collection and methods, participant observation was conducted to identify stakeholders and to map the conflict of power and relation. Social ties were also mapped in order to graph the relationship of the involved parties concerning the problem and to each other. And then secondary data analysis was performed through an in-depth literature review to examine the previous and current data of the government agencies responsible for the monitoring of the sand and gravel operations. Data also from research centers have conducted this kind of research study will also use. And then here we go with the results and discussion. For the stakeholder analysis, there is an evidence from participant observation that the current state of water for irrigation in the province of Leyte is in part bounded up with the existing social relation and distribution of political power. There are 8 stakeholders identified and they are mapped. Their interests are mapped, no? And then stakeholders who are in the main circles here are the primary stakeholders. Secondary stakeholders occupy the second biggest circle, and the rest are the case stakeholders, except for the academe, who do not have a direct involvement but play as an external party by providing a safe space for stakeholders' negotiation. The primary stakeholders are the National Irrigation Administration and the rice farmers, who are also member of the Irrigators Association. They are the parties who are ultimately affected by the sand and gravel extraction activities in the province. And with the analysis, there are 2 conflicts that emerge from it. The conflict of resource use between sand and gravel permit holders and rice farmers, which are also members of the Irrigators Association. And another conflict is the conflict of policy implementation between National Irrigation Administration and Mines and Geosciences Bureau, as well as the provincial or the city mining regulatory board. Conflict of resource use presents that the nature was in part bound up. Our natural environment is bound up with social relations involving various stakeholders whose viewpoints and decisions are driven and shaped on the resource, on the type of resources they're interested in. This existing conflict between permit holders and Irrigators Association and rice farmers are in the stage of field conflict, meaning the affected parties are aware, they're aware of the presence of the seriousness of the gaps between them. And for the conflict of policy implementation between NIA and GBNP or CMRB, it characterized by a dispute which is in the processing of finding solution, currently in the processing of finding solution to form a negotiation on this conflict. This conflict is related to the several sand and gravel extraction within the surrounding area of National Irrigation Administration. Well, NIA, despite being the primary institution responsible for the irrigation development and maintenance in the country, it remains no involvement at all on the issuance of the clearance for sand and gravel permit application. No, so this existing conflict, as discussed, the metabolic reef theory intensifies the reef by damaging the public funds allocated for the operation and wasting the public funds spent on the irrigation development and the sustainability of irrigation projects. And necessary for the poverty alleviation, food security, and improving the quality of life for rural populations, considering that the existing sand and gravel operations in the province are located in areas with high and medium poverty rates. And furthermore, to assess the intensity of the reef, here we go with this table, no, in analysis to the human right to water for food. First, we look at the availability. In agriculture, especially in Eastern Visayas, plays a very significant role as the population in the region is very much dependent on agriculture for food and livelihood. Here we can say that as the volume of extracted sand and gravel increases, these blue ones, there's also a decrease. There's also a slight decrease on the service area for irrigators, for the irrigation system in the province. As irrigated area decreases, we can see that there's also a fluctuation in the volume of rice production. And furthermore, there's considering with the massive volume of sand and gravel in the province, recorded revenue collected from sand and gravel extraction does not exceed to more than 1% from the total annual income of the LGUs hosting the operations. It was learned that at present, only 25% of the concessionaires have renewed their permit. And of the 74 active permittees in the province, the province only received 6.77 million share from sand and gravel in 2019. But this share here, this graph, this share, the orange one, is lower than the fund allocated for the operation and maintenance of the existing irrigation systems in the province. Also in 2019, the chief geologist of the Mines and Geoscience Bureau in Region 8 admitted, based on their assessment, several violations have been committed by concessionaires in the province, and the revenue is way lower, no? As we look at it, it's way lower than the budget for the operation and maintenance of the existing irrigation in the province. Moving on to the access, there is a irrigation service fees are waived for farmers having less than 8 hectares of rice farm. Yet in Region 8, the National Irrigation Administration admitted that there's an absence of database, so they do not have an idea on the number of rice farmers in the region who are qualified of the free irrigation service fee. Besides, Irrigators Association also are collecting fees within their organization. No? For the NIA, they have this standard irrigation service fee, no, for those who are using diversion reservoir or irrigation system, and the focus here is the irrigation system. And then with the sharing, we can see that in the areas where there are high number of permit holders, there might be also a high volume of extracted sand and gravel. But as we can see in the sharing, those areas having high number of permit holders and a large volume of extraction only receive less compared to those. So it might be a matter of governance, no? And then, so the effect of sand and gravel operation to the rice production will ultimately challenge the rice farmers for their irrigation fees for NIAS and for the organizations, especially those farmers who especially for small scale farmers, no? And for the supporting infrastructure, this is the existing irrigation system in the province. As of now, there is an area of 3,251 hectares and is operating as of now. No? So here we can see the impact of sand and gravel activities to the system itself, no? The physical structure in the irrigation systems. And then looking into the revenue from sand and gravel, comparing with the income lost from the rice production, we can conclude, and we can initially see that revenue from sand and gravel extraction is way lower than the income we've lost from rice production. So it really needs a depth research, no, on how could we equate these two components. And looking into the supporting institutions and policies as of now, no, the existing policies, established policies are the Republic Act 7942, the Philippine Mining Act, and then it's IRR, the DAO 2010-21, and then 7160, the Local Government Code of the Philippines, which states the sharing of sand and gravel resource to the municipalities and cities hosting the operation. Locally, there is in the local level, the sand and gravel monitoring team for the municipality, specific for the municipality of Alberta and city of Ormoc, is already established, but that is for these two places alone. And then the Provincial Board of Leyte is currently considering the proposed order, which seeks to declare unlawful for natural persons who have been granted a permit to sell sand and gravel outside the province. No? But while the province are still in the process of planning and reviewing the proposed ordinance, the city of Ormoc already issued an executive order suspending the acceptance of new applications and renewals for sand and gravel permits, and banning the export of sand and gravel outside the city, which directs the implementation on the rehabilitation of plants of existing sand and gravel in the permit areas. And then, as I said, that it is an ongoing study. So as of now, this is my initial conclusion. I can conclude that there is a disconnection on the implementation of the Philippine water use priorities, which really a challenge for us in order to attain the country's development plan in our long-term vision. And if the sand and gravel extraction is only here in the province, no, but I cannot see the situation. I cannot discuss the situation for the other places, but in the province of Leyte, if this extraction will remain unregulated, it will eventually threaten the rice production in the province and the fund allocated for the irrigation system. And there is a weak policy implementation and conflict in the resource use are the root cause of the ongoing conflict on the reconciliation of the priorities between infrastructure, achieving our notion of development, and the agricultural development, how we can reconcile and agricultural development. And then for the theory, for the social theory, the metabolic drift theory, it's very essential in framing the notion of development in the context of non-metallic extraction and the human right to water for food. And for my initial recommendations, there's a need to conduct a barangay-based stakeholder analysis. And there's also a need to review the existing policies for sand and gravel permit applications in the issuance and recognitions, the impact of extraction activities to the water sources for the irrigation systems and the palay production. There's a need to establish a concentrated and unified effort among concerned government agencies, in this case, the NIA, MGB, the PRCMRB, and the academe, which is a very supporting institution. Feasibility studies on the sediment discharge of sand and gravel operations should be done to recommend management strategies for NIA and Irrigators Association. There is a need to assess the impact of sand and gravel extraction on water quality itself and the quantity available for the agriculture sector. There is a need to measure the volume loss, the volume loss for irrigation systems. Knowledge empowerment of local communities must be considered so that they will be empowered in the monitoring in the ground level. Transparency and accessibility of related data is also recommended. These are the literature cited for this study. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jean. And that was indeed a very good research demonstration on the interconnectedness of water and food, and the multi-dimensional, multi-stakeholder nature of water resources management. So once again, thank you very much, Merry Jean. Let's proceed to our fourth speaker, Rey Vincent Coladilla. Rey is a fifth-year student of Batangas State University, taking Bachelor of Science in Sanitary Engineering. He is a graduating student with thesis focusing first on wastewater engineering, particularly on the effects of biocoagulant derived from taro leaves on the characteristics of water, and second on public health engineering, on proposed healthcare waste management facility design for rural healthcare units in Batangas. Rey? Hello, Rey Vincent?
Is my screen sharing?
Not yet. Please, oh, there you go, yes.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay. Isang makakaligasang hapon po sa ating lahat. I'm Rey Vincent Coladilla from Batangas State University, a sanitary engineering student. And for this afternoon, I will be presenting our thesis study entitled Effects of Biocoagulant Derived from Colocasia Esculenta Taro Leaves on the Characteristics of Water Samples. This with the collaborative efforts of my thesis mates, Francis Ivan Chosas, Ian Julius B. Matala, Princess Joy Villabrosa, and to our advisor, Engineer Danica Mariber Mercado. For introduction, Water safety is of utmost concern together with maintaining the quality of our aquatic environment. With the improper treatment and disposal of agricultural, industrial, and even domestic sewage, it affects the overall quality of our water bodies. Here in Batangas City, the mostly affected water body is Calumpang River, brought by various human activities. And problems on solids contamination of wastewater may really affect the operations and maintenance. And with this, as a sanitary engineering student, it is really a call of responsibility to take actions by pursuing relevant studies focusing on wastewater treatment and even public health. With this, we considered the use of Colocasia Esculenta leaves as a natural coagulant in the treatment of kitchen gray water, laundry gray water, river freshwater, and even synthetic water samples. As for the objectives of our study, the main thrust of our study is to determine the characteristics of the kitchen gray water, laundry gray water, river freshwater, and synthetic water sample. Upon application of varying concentrations of natural coagulant derived from taro leaves with respect to turbidity, pH level, electrical conductivity, total dissolved solids, total suspended solids, and dissolved oxygen level. Second is to determine the efficiency of the coagulant derived from Colocasia Esculenta leaves upon varying dosage of 0, 10, 15, 25, 50, 100, 150, and 200 milligram per liter on the treatment of turbidity and solid content of various water samples. Determine the degree of correlation existing between the applied varying concentration of natural coagulant and the parameters involved in each water sample. As for our methodology, first we have collected the Colocasia Esculenta leaves on various areas here in Batangas. It's very abundant here, and the use of these plants are not that of important because these taro leaves are those with a very wide leaves, and it's not hindi siya yung taro leaves na nakakain natin. And after collecting this Colocasia Esculenta leaves, we rinse it with distilled water or tap water for the removal of any sediments and left it in sun drying for 3 days. The leaves were also cut into fragments and oven dried for 90 to 100 degrees Celsius in order for the leaves to have a complete dehydration and for the moisture content to be removed. After that, the leaves were powder dried using mortar and pestle and domestic blender. The powdered leaves were sieved in number 200 to produce a fine mixture, a fine powder, which was mixed with a distilled water so that the leaf stock solution is produced. The raw leaf stock solution is slurry, and we need it to be filtered so that the leaf stock solution will be like this, as presented in my PPT. Upon doing this, we are also doing the acquisition of our samples. For the kitchen gray water, we obtained our kitchen gray water sample near a food stall in Batangas State University. And for the laundry gray water sample, we obtained the first wash since it has the highest pollutant loading for a laundry gray water sample in a residential house of my colleague. And for the river freshwater sample, we obtained it at a tributary point of Calumpang River located at Barangay Sabang, Ibaan, Batangas. For the synthetic water sample, we have adapted some related studies on how to prepare it by mixing a controlled mass of clay with distilled water. Upon doing this, we determined the initial or the before treatment characteristics of various water samples, and the jar testing procedure was facilitated. We made a jar testing apparatus, and we base it on National Environment Services Center and how to do a improvised jar testing apparatus. And after that, we determined the after treatment characteristics of various water samples by obtaining the supernatant part of the sample. Here are the equipments we use. We have the turbidity meter, the pH meter, the multi-parameter apparatus, and the TDS meter. As for the results of our study, first, in terms of turbidity, the KGS has an initial turbidity count of 206 to 373, and after treatment, the values became 99.5 to 198.38. As for laundry gray water sample, it has an initial range of turbidity from 56.2 to 60.9, and upon application of the natural coagulant, we have 53.53 to 57.79. As for river freshwater sample, we have an initial turbidity count of 3.73 to 5.56, but sadly, upon the application of our coagulant, it worsens the turbidity of the sample. And for the synthetic water sample, only at high dosages, 50, 100, 150, and 200 milligram per liter, does the coagulant take effect in reducing the turbidity of the sample. In terms of pH, we all know that in terms of laundry gray water sample, this sample has a very basic pH level since the contaminants are basely composed of alkaline materials. And as you can see, the overall effect of our natural coagulant is to drop the pH level of each samples. And it's also interesting to note that at higher levels, the pH level was dropped substantially in each samples. In terms of electrical conductivity, since the coagulant is dissolved in nature, it further contributes to electrical conductivity of the samples in terms of kitchen gray water sample, laundry gray water sample, and even in river fresh water sample. This is also similar with the total dissolved solids since both parameters are connected. The coagulant further increased the TDS level for the KGS, but in LGS, the samples are reduced, and for the river freshwater sample, again, it increased the total dissolved solids. In terms of total suspended solids, since this is really a raw wastewater, we cannot control the homogeneity of our sample. But upon application to kitchen gray water sample, there is a decrease upon comparing it to before treatment values. But in LGS, only at 150 milligram per liter does the coagulant efficient in reducing the TSS level of the sample. And on the other hand, again, in terms of river freshwater sample, it worsens the TSS quality, and it increases the values. In terms of dissolved oxygen level, since it is one of the chemical characteristics of our samples, in terms of KGS, it increases the dissolved oxygen level as we increase the dosage. And for LGS, it drops the values, similar with the river freshwater sample. For the documentation part or the jar testing procedure, these are the samples we use in our study. The first one is the laundry gray water sample, the freshwater sample, the kitchen gray water, and the synthetic turbid water samples. And after an hour of settling and after facilitating the coagulation flocculation phase, here is the presentation of our laundry gray water sample from no treatment to 200 milligram per liter concentration. As you can see, from dirty white becomes light green. And for the river freshwater sample, it really worsens the quality aesthetically. And in terms of KGS, there is a notable sludge or flocks at the bottom part of the beakers. This is also same with the synthetic water sample after an hour of settling with biocoagulant. As for this, the recommended dosages for treatment of solids are given. Since there is no recommended dosage, since the coagulant is not efficient in reducing electroconductivity and TDS of the samples involved. But in terms of turbidity and TSS, for KGS, we are recommending a 200 milligram per liter concentration to have an expected removal efficiency of 69.44%. For LGS, it's very small, 15 milligram per liter, and it's not that efficient to treat the turbidity of LGS, which accounts only to 2.25%. And for synthetic water sample, which is composed entirely of clay and water, the recommended dosage is 200 and the expected removal efficiency is 58.15%. In terms of TSS, for both KGS and LGS, we are recommending a 150 milligram per liter, which has a 18.85% expected removal efficiency for KGS and 80.25% for LGS. Since the TSS level of RFS worsens as we applied the natural coagulant, we are not recommending any dosages to it. As for correlation, here is the table. A positive correlation indicates that as we increase the dosages of the natural coagulant, the parameters involved is decreasing or is treated efficiently. Yeah. As per conclusion, the biocoagulant extracted from taro leaves shows substantial decrease in turbidity when applied to KGS, LGS, and synthetic water sample, although EC, TSS, and TDS was not efficiently decreased. Only pH values drop as the coagulant's dosage increases. Only at high dosages does the coagulant affects the DO level of kitchen gray water sample. All samples show substantial decrease in the dissolved oxygen level as coagulant's dosage is increased. The type of contaminants present in the sample plays a vital role in achieving high removal efficiencies. Removal efficiency of the biocoagulant on turbidity is both high for kitchen gray water sample and synthetic water sample. As for our recommendations, with low efficiency results on TDS and EC, it is recommended to use the produced natural coagulant from taro leaves for wastewater treatment rather than potable application, since TDS and EC are one of the parameters involved in terms of producing potable water. For the results showed decreasing values of dissolved oxygen upon application of varying dosages of natural coagulant. It is then recommended to do further assessment, particularly biological parameters, to account on this decrease. And to further establish the capacity of the natural coagulant in terms of removal of physical parameters in water, production of other natural coagulants to which the Colocasia Esculenta biocoagulant can be used in conjunction to efficiently treat other parameters can be conducted. Some of the theses here in BSU focusing on natural coagulant was the Moringa oleifera, and a study, and we recommend that there will be a conjunction or mixed study for both natural coagulant to further improve the removal efficiencies in terms of physical parameters. And future study on the utilization of the starch and other parts of the Colocasia Esculenta plants as natural coagulant, and a comparative study of this is also recommended to be experimented. Here are the list of our references. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rey Vincent. Again, a wonderful piece of research that takes inspiration from nature. And we'd love to hear more about the research being conducted at BSU on other organic and indigenous local materials used for water treatment. Our final speaker for this afternoon, if I could share my slide, is Mark Lester Galicia of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Mark Lester is an incoming third-year student at the PUP, where he's currently taking Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. His interest in chemistry started when he was given a chance to represent his school in a science quiz bee contest when he was in high school. Right now, he serves as the Vice President for Academic Affairs at the Philippine Association of Chemistry Students Incorporated, and a former society representative and constitutional committee member of the said organization. He hopes to further continue his studies in the fields of biochemistry and inorganic chemistry, and determined to be a professor and a researcher. Mark Lester?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, kita po ba yung screen?
Yes, you've started screen sharing. Please go ahead.
Okay, so thank you. So, thank you for the introduction. So, again, good afternoon. So, in behalf of my group mates, which are Carl Luis Plastado, Jeff Ryan Magalong, Kim Villacorte, Ronald Benzevera, and William G. Sarmiento, together with our research advisor, which is Mr. Chester Diocaris. I am here to present our research study entitled Assessment of Microplastics in the Coastal Sediments of Sitio Pulo, Navotas, Metro Manila. So first things first, what are microplastics? So microplastics are basically tiny plastic particles with an official designation which is less than 5 millimeters or 0.2 inches in length. They can be found in bodies of water and even in land. So they can be ingested by marine species, as we can see in the photo. Now, when it comes to microplastics, of course, we have sources of these microplastics. So what are those? We have large plastic items, we have the cleaning products, we have such resin beads and micro beads that are used for cosmetics, we have textile fibers. Now, these sources can either generate a primary or secondary type of microplastic. So for the primary, they are already 5 millimeters in length, like the microplastics that are under resin beads and microbeads. For the secondary type is those are the result of degradation of larger plastic particles or larger plastic items. So we can further elaborate this through this diagram. So we can see here that plastic wastes are generated in mainland and even in the bodies of water. So since these plastic wastes are exposed in UV radiation, photodegradation is possible. So either way, since we have photodegradation and oceanic currents induce mechanical degradation via the collision of sediments and plastic waste, when this plastic waste becomes small enough, they can be ingested by marine animals. So they can be a part of the sediment either via bioturbation or sedimentation via feces, wherein those microplastics will be suspended within the sediments. So proceeding to our area of choice. So this is Sitio Pulo. So for Sitio Pulo, it is located at Barangay Navarro in Navotas City. It has an area of 29.47 hectares with a mangrove tree forest, which is recognized as an ecotourism site in Metro Manila. So as we can see here, this is an example of a news article on Inquirer.net that shows that Navotas itself, particularly the Sitio Pulo, is a bird haven for migratory birds coming from other continents during migrating season. So now, the sampling site itself. So as we can see here, we have 4 sampling points. Point A and point B faces Manila Bay, while point C and point D faces the mainland of Sitio Pulo in Navotas. So when does this sampling happen? It happened last July 4 and July 25 of the year 2019. So from this sampling site, how do we gather this microplastic fragments, sediments, and other things that we need? So we gather those, then we isolate them. So next one is, for the first step of isolation, we have the wet sieving, which involves the usage of 4.7 and 0.355 millimeter sieve mesh. So this wet sieving technique is used in order to remove the sediments and other unwanted particles that are not included in the study or not even included in the research objectives itself. So this one is followed by the alkali digestion, which is 2 molar sodium hydroxide. Then it is placed in a water bath. So this one is for the removal of organic or bioorganic materials that have been mingled within the microplastics itself. And lastly, for density separation, we have used 5 molar of sodium chloride solution, basically a brine solution. So we have water, the corn oil, and also lastly, the 70% of isopropyl alcohol. So here in this slide, we can see the photographs of microplastics that we have collected in the sediments of Sitio Pulo per sampling point. So from column A and column B, these are microplastics that we have collected from the area facing Manila Bay, while point C and point D are the microplastics that we have collected from the area facing the mainland of Sitio Pulo. Proceeding to the results. So first things first, sizes. We can see here and we can observe that points C, B, and A are much longer compared to the length of point D microplastics. Why so? So basically, this is due to the photodegradation and at the same time the mechanical degradation. So much longer exposure to ultraviolet radiation, much greater loss of the size. Then additionally, since we have the mechanical degradation, loss of size is also possible due to that process. Now, the next one is the roundness. So roundness of microplastics can be categorized by Arjay. So if we have 0 value for the roundness of the microplastics, basically the microplastic is an angular type as shown in the figure on the lower left corner. So the figure beside this angular microplastic is a circular type which has a value of near 1. So again, if we have a value of 1 for the roundness of microplastics, then basically we can say that it is circular. So observing the points and the roundness value for each point, you can see that all of these points have a median value of 0.8, which is near the value of 1, which indicates that all of these points have circular microplastics. However, observing much carefully, point B and point A are much rounder compared to point C and point B. Now, for the next one, we have the lightness of the collected microplastics. So the lightness is measured via CLab, wherein if you have a 0 value, you have a black colored or basically a dark colored microplastic. If you have a value of 100, then it is what? Excuse me. That is white. So for sites with point A, point B, and point B, it is much considerably lighter compared to point C. Since as we can see, the values of points A, B, and D are much nearer to 100 compared to the value of point C. Then lightness followed by the yellowness. Again, lightness and yellowness together with the lightness is measured via CLab. For this one, the parameter is set from negative 128 to positive 128. If you have a negative 128 value, then it is bluish. If you have a positive 128 value, then it is yellowish. As we can observe, since the values of all points are near the positive side, or basically on the positive side of the number line, we can see that the microplastics are yellowish itself, but points A, B, and D are considerably much more yellowish compared to point C. So for the lightness and yellowness, how it is so that these things have become more lighter and much more yellowish. So that is basically due to the photodegradation. So again, photodegradation is started by a photoprice reaction. So as we can see here, photoprice reaction is when you expose a piece of microplastic or a piece of polymer or any sample within a shorter wavelength of ultraviolet radiation. Now, they will produce 2 free radicals. These 2 free radicals are basically primary free radicals that are born from the broken linkages of the primary polymer. So, followed by that, we have photooxidation. This one is when these 2 primary free radicals transforms into alcohols and ketones. Then those alcohols and ketones will further transform into an aromatic substance, which gives the yellowness of the microplastic. So let's take a look at the value again for the yellowness. So as we can see here, photo-oxidation is evident since all the values of for the yellowness either from point A to point B are all in the positive side of the number line. And lastly, for the lightness again, so photo bleaching is when you expose the microplastic into a longer wavelength of ultraviolet radiation, leaving those microplastics nearly white because they remove those colored additives through the process of photo bleaching. So again, notice here that all the values are positive. So we can also say, and since it is evident, yeah, we can say that points A, B, C, and D are evidently undergoing and have undergone photo bleaching. So proceeding to the photo degradation factored by the visit. So we have the distribution of microplastics lightness value on the right side of the screen. So the date of sampling again is last July 4 and July 25 of the year 2019. As we can see here on the box plot, there is a significant difference between the first and the second visit. Why so? Because during the date of sampling and the visit interval, tropical storms have occurred. So for July 17, we have tropical storm Falcon, and July 18, 2019, we have tropical storm Doreen. So these two tropical storms are the main reason why there is a big significant difference on the photodegradation lightness value of these microplastics from visit 1 and visit 2. So proceeding to the density, again, I've already said earlier that we have used salt solution, water, corn oil, and 70% of isopropyl alcohol to classify the density of these microplastics. So these are the result of those, or of that part of the experiment. So for the first density category, we have greater than 1.00 gram per cubic centimeter. So for a total of 6 microplastics have belonged to this density category. So for density 2, we have 0.84 to 1.00 gram per cubic centimeter. Under this category of density, we have 24 microplastics. And lastly, for density 3, which is less than 0.84 gram per cubic centimeter, we have a total of 11 microplastics under this density category. So basically, the overall total of the microplastics that we have collected is 41. So categorization of microplastics using FTIR. We have used FTIR machine for the categorization of the chemical components of microplastics. So as you can see here, we have polyethylene as the largest or the most frequent microplastics with a 6 of its kind, followed by polystyrene with 4, polypropylene with 3. So from biobeads to resin copolymer, each of these microplastics have one of its kind. Now proceeding to the infrared spectra. So basically, this is the infrared spectra of the polyethylene microplastic. So as you can see here, the peaks correspond to the reference point. So we can say that this is a spectra of polyethylene. So what are the common uses of polyethylene? We have water bottles, pipes, and even water containers such as drums. So as we can see here that the structure is covered in parentheses and N. So basically, this is because polyethylene is a polymer. It is a long chain of hydrocarbons. That's why it is kind of hard to break when it comes to photodegradation because of the long chain of hydrocarbons. So the next one is the styrene acrylonitrile copolymer with a common use of plastic of food packaging rather. Then for the other one, we have also water bottles, the non-disposable ones. And lastly, for this spectra, we have polypropylene, which are commonly used for textiles, ropes, for laboratory wares too. So within this study, we have arrived into this conclusion that the median values of the microplastics length, roundness, the L star, which represent the lightness, and the B star, which represent the yellowness, indicates that the collected microplastics fragments are in advanced stage of degradation. So another conclusion is that the difference in fragments between physical properties between facing different sites was observed. And lastly, multiple factors can affect the physical properties of each microplastic fragment. So first, before I end rather my presentation, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Alvin Ter Gallardo of the Philippine Nuclear Research Institute for granting our request to analyze the sample using their ATR FTIR. And what and lastly, what I want to say here is that in this study, we would like to imply awareness that the plastics that we have currently been using are degrading into microplastics, and it can affect the ecology of the not just the water ecology, but also of land ecology, also our own health. So that's all, and thank you. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Mark, Lester, and well done to all of our speakers for today's E-fluence 2020. Let's give them a virtual round of applause for those wonderful presentations. At this point, I would like to invite for the synthesis of the past 5 presentations, Melvin Solomon. Melvin is a civil engineer specializing in water resources, hydrology, hydraulics, and atmospheric processes. He earned his BS Civil Engineering from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños in 2004, and ME Civil Engineering from the University of Tokyo in 2011. His career affiliation for the past 15 years includes Manila Water Company, GHD, GHD Manila, UP Los Baños, and Woodfields Consultants. Now he's currently affiliated with the Far Eastern University as assistant professor and full-time online sensation. Melvin is also the director for training and development for the Philippine Young Water Professionals. Melvin?
Hello. Hello, Yang.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi there. So again, congratulations to everyone. So for our 5 speakers are still here. So I'm here to synthesize this and have some thoughts. So on the first paper, we have the biosorption from RJ. So I guess the conservation of the natural environment is always a buzz thing. So with different names and versions that we could write. And then one thing that has been bugging us is there is this presence of toxic metals in the water. So the study thought of using the biosorption, and it's like a film where the toxic matter will attach. And then the bright idea is they use the jackfruit that we usually eat over biko and suma. And the magic was a huge removal of toxic metals called lead. So that's what happened to the study. And then the reward was it fitted so well with the Lagergren pseudo second order models. And then the Langmuir isotherm model showed the best fit. And then luckily the absorption capacity was at 94 milligram per gram, or simply 9% of lead per amount of water. So is RJ here? RJ? There is a question here from the audience.
Sure.
Sure. The question was from Catriona. And then the question was, so what made the jackfruit special versus other coagulants? So what are the next steps after this study?
All right. Thank you for Catriona for the question. Well, una, jackfruit leads to clear kasi it's different leads yung ginamit namin. And then the difference would be the all of the biosorption or biosorbent is same in terms of functional group. So hydroxyl, CH group. Pero the difference would be the insolubility of the jackfruit leaves sa water. So the most common kasi is the pectin, arginate, chitosan, chitin. That's the talaga for removal of lead, and they are so expensive. Pero before you gonna use it to the wastewater, you need to stabilize or immobilize yung biosorb na yun. Kasi if you don't do that, matutunaw lang din sila sa water, wala kang makukuha. So, you will just, parang homogeneous lang sila. But the jackfruit leaves, luckily, because they are made of cellulose and hence cellulose, so hindi siya natutunaw, so you can easily to recover the jackfruit leaves na magsisettle sa bottom, and then you can just remove that, magiging sludge siya, and then the water, the removal of lead of water is, sabi mo nga, is mataas in terms of removal rate and then the uptake ng metal.
So anyway, that was so fantastic because jackfruit seems to be just a fruit.
Yeah.
No, it is a coagulant.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you, RJ.
All right, sure. Thank you, Melvin.
Thank you. And then for Marish, the next one and is about the assessment of the water stations. And it is quite alarming because we have been drinking water for all our lives, every hour and day. So however, the sad news is that somehow we don't trust some of our water providers. So that's why we buy water from water stations. So how are we going to continue the trust? So anyway, the study had conducted testing for several water stations in Cavite, General Trias, Cavite. And then the contest was really to sort to determine which one would be delivering the clean or what is their level or degree of cleanliness. And we have to compare it with the standard. So they get it. So they were getting the water from groundwater, from deep well, and then from water district, which is supposedly clean. And now the results were shocking. So despite the UV efforts and the multimedia carbons, I guess I captured it right. There are 2 stations with E. coli, and then 1 failed in the heterotrophic plate test, and then half also failed with coliform. So the golden question to Marish. Hi, Marish. Are you there?
Melvin, unfortunately, Marish had to drop out because she has to attend the class. But it's good to mention the question, and then we'll ask Marish to type in her comments at the YouTube live chat afterwards.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, the question raised here was the future of regulation for the water stations. So if the water utilities are regulated, so how come the water stations, how would be the future of regulations for those industries? And then let's proceed for the third one, which is the sand and gravel extractions. So the study was very daring because it challenges our local policies. Then the outcomes, the people, the poverty are all chaotic. So the study was made in Leyte and showed a story with several seasons. So season 1, it has a massive sand gravel extractions. And then season 2, the NIA showed several figures of damages, inclusive of Typhoon Yolanda. And then season 3, there are a lot of farmers who were affected through the reduction of palay production. So how about our earnings from it? So the major twist is that the study used the metabolic theory through interviews and secondary data. And then there was conflict and power among the stakeholders. And when compared it with the water, energy, and food security framework and nexus to judge the entire story. And then the grand twist is that there is conflict of interest among the companies, the sand and gravel companies, which is actually affecting our basic right for secured water for food. So there were many stakeholders involved, and then the regulation seems need a policy reform and implementation. So bottom line, the implementation is far from satisfaction. So it means the young people has to do a lot of things around, aside from active presence in the social media. So there is a question for Merry Jean. Hi, Merry Jean.
Hello po.
The question is from the mayor of Pasig City, Vico Soto. Yes, the stakeholder map is complicated. So who is the missing player in the process? Or what is the first step if you have the ability to do the institutional reform?
Can you repeat, sir, the question?
Yeah.
Quite broad. So the question is about the stakeholder analysis. Well, basically it starts with a problem analysis, and then when we establish the problem, we started to look into the stakeholders who are this involved, but the stakeholder analysis presented earlier cannot present the entire situation in the Philippines. It's only applied in the province of Leyte, and it is always in progress because there might be somebody else that will join. So at the moment, kasi the issuance of permit applications for infrastructure, uh, the DPWH, they're involved on that, but with the negotiation and the continued discussion on the effects of sand and gravel extraction, there is no DPWH doesn't involved yet on the process of discussion. So basically at this time, the 8 stakeholders are very active on the discussions. And I tried to, as the study progress, I tried to include the DPWH. Maybe after this pandemic, I will engage again with meetings and discussions with them. So I think they need to be, and then also the Water Board of the Philippines, I guess they need to dive in with the situation, because with the presidential decree, the Water Code of the Philippines, so they need to I need to consider their views or make them part of the stakeholders.
Okay. So what I captured there is that I think there would be a very good change if we have the very strict permit. Am I right? So if the permit was totally regulated, so I guess the story would be a lot different or easier to manage. Anyway, thank you for the answer and then the presentation earlier, Mary Jean.
Yeah, I'm very privileged that the mayor of Pasig sent me the question. Thank you.
Anyway, let's proceed to Batangas. So we have Rey Vincent. So the paper was about the, again, for water. So we have the potable water, and then the reusability of water is always around us. But the threat is real about solids, or the contamination is always there in the water. So we are living about it. So this study used another substance to remove the unwanted solid contaminants in the water. So that would be making it easier to remove. So once they all flock together, so it's better to remove it. So in short, there is zero social distancing in the process of coagulation. So maybe while most coagulants are chemicals and it is very expensive, so the study thought of using a material from taro leaves, or parang gabi ba yun? Yeah, parang yung fruit dyan. And then we usually use that for sinigang, but now it's for coagulation. So the results shows a promising presence forward. So there's a decrease in turbidity. So the water is clearer. The suspended solids and pH has also changed. And then the removal efficiency is significant at 0.82 to 0.97 correlation. So in short, the natural coagulant is useful to manage our wastewater, especially from the kitchen. So Rey Vincent, so the question goes to you. Hello there, are you still there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ayun, so I guess you heard earlier the study about the jackfruit
Yes,
for
po.
lead removal. So which is better, jackfruit or gabi? Or taro leaves? A
I
joke.
think
Anyway, I'm thinking like when we add such coagulants, so there is increase in the waste footprint. So while this is outside your study, so how would the treatment waste of the coagulation will be managed?
sir, paulit po.
Ayun, the question is, di ba, we add coagulants. So this time is from taro leaves. So there could be an increase in waste footprint also. because we add those leaves to the water, to the wastewater. So how would the treatment of the waste will be managed further?
Um, Treatment po mismo ng added leaves and the samples.
Yeah.
I think may mga parts naman po na sa in a typical wastewater treatment, may mga other equipments and na ma-reduce niya po yung effect ng coagulant from a natural coagulant since po the only parameter na significantly naka-affect itong ating coagulant is turbidity. Maybe yun po, may treatment pa po for those samples after removal of turbidity.
Okay. So I guess it will be best managed parents still. So there are parameters to check whether it's gonna be managed very well. No. So anyway, thank you, Ray Vincent. Right. And for the last one, which is about the plastics on the microscopic level from Mark Lester. So the study is about the plastic with a very small size, so microplastics. So this is the trash that we usually is present in the seawater. So which is affecting our friends and organisms in the sea. So however, one site is a mangrove area in Navotas, and it was examined to check its degree and severity. So this is what happened. So there is sediment sampling, then density separation using sugar syrup, then removal of microplastics by digestion. Then there are pictures or photos of samples. So parang may Instagram doon. So there's also a check of size, roundness, and then the color. And then later on, there's spectroscopy to determine the composition. So out of several fragments, so it showed that there is this presence of polypropylene, polyethylene, polystyrene, and anything polymeric. So they are all plastics. So meaning the water is polluted, and who knows, the fish that we are eating have microplastics. So eventually it's cooked and then we eat it. So it could be a disaster. So dealing with it, we still have to think of ways how to reduce our use of plastics. So the alarming question for Mark. Hello, Mark. Mark
Hello.
Lester. Hello there. So the question for you is, how do we reduce the level of the microplastics in the seawater, or how do you see the regulation about it, and what level seems to be the dead end that we are supposed to be in panic?
Kasi supposedly we can cancel the usage of plastics itself kasi it's an industry na here in the whole wide world. So
yes.
basically we can we can just how do you call this? We can lessen it, we can use it, we can recycle it. We can use a nonlinear approach or a nonlinear economic approach where instead of taking it, using it, and then disposing it, we can use it again para ma-circulate mo yung value without losing anything na galing sa nature. Kasi if we use, instead of lessening, dinadagdagan natin yung problema natin. And another thing is that mas kailangan natin din talaga ng proper waste management. If we know how to properly manage our waste, we can basically lessen this.
So I guess we just have to stop using plastics and then use everything, I don't know, organic or paper bags. So anyway, I guess we are going there. There are some cities who already banned the use of plastics. So I guess I had summarized and synthesized all these 5 papers for everyone. So the major message is that the environment is still at risk, and I guess we we can do something. It's not yet late. So for everyone listening, so the message is clear. So we have to do our part, but we have to start somewhere. So ayun yan. So that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you for that synthesis, Melvin. Very clear. And for those questions, and thanks to our speakers for their answers. I've got a very quick question addressed to Engineer Hosmillo and Mr. Coladilla. If characterization of their biosorbent for jackfruit and coagulant for the taro leaves was performed or included in the study, characterization would establish the science on the elemental composition or functional site responsible for the removals. Was that part of your study? And would you be able to provide more details further on?
Yeah. Thanks, Yang. Yeah, definitely that's very vital because the functional group, which is mini-measure for the FPIR na ginamit din ni Mark Lester for microplastic, yun yung magde-decide if what functional groups are working and not working on the bioabsorption. So for me, for jackfruit, we luckily there is available FPIR for the jackfruit leaves, and we based on the research, it's the hydroxyl group, which is yun yung maraming component for the leaves, and the hydroxyl group will definitely the involved mechanism for the adsorption process of the leaves and the heavy metal. And sabi ko nga, because jackfruit leaves is composed of hemicellulose and cellulose, which is insoluble with water, so it's very promising na gamitin as a biosorbent kasi mura, and then you can just find it anywhere. And like us, Leyte or Eastern Samar is now piloting this map of their jackfruits kasi they want to be known for that. So yep, it's the hydroxy group, and then the rest is just a probably little contribution on it.
Thank you, RJ. Vince?
In terms of our leaves, we base it on a related study from Ahmed, to which he characterized the taro leaves, and the functional elements present in it is the carbonyl and hydroxyl group. That's it.
Thank you, Rey Vincent. And once again, thank you to all our speakers. It's a shame that one of our speakers had to drop out, but we'll be able to be in touch through the Facebook group of the Philippine Young Water Professionals. Let's give again our speakers a warm virtual round of applause for their fantastic showing up in this E-fluence 2020. At this point, to give the closing remarks for this wonderful program that we've had for the past 2.5 hours, I'd like to call the chairperson of the Philippine Young Water Professionals and the Environment and Sustainability Manager of Jollibee Worldwide Services, Engineer Chris Katang-Katang.
Hello, good afternoon, Yang.
Hi, Chris.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the speakers, RJ, Marish, Merry Jean, Vince, and Mark Lester. So thank you for sharing your research, your studies with to us, and then to all the viewers. It's a great opportunity for our viewers to learn more, even though considering the situation that we are currently in. So with that, I'd also like to thank the organizers of this event, this E-fluence. So this is already actually the part 2. We couldn't just contain it in just one episode, so we had to do two episodes for this conference, so due to the high demand. So thank you to the organizers, to the officers of pipe, so included Yang, Melvin, Raf, Edward, and the rest of the pipe officers. So thank you for organizing this event, and to the participants or to the viewers. We hope you were able to learn a lot from this E-fluence, and please continue to support the activities of pipe, because we are doing this to share the learnings, to make the water community learn more, not just on what they currently know, but on a greater field on the water industry. So with that, I would like to thank everyone. Thank you everyone for attending this influence, and please continue to look out for the next activities of Philippine Young Water Professionals. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Ryan, for the organizing this wonderful E-fluence 2020, and to the rest of the PIPE officers, and to all the 9 speakers we've had over the last 2 weeks. And we are so excited to hear the feedback from Facebook, from YouTube Live, all the positive comments going out to all our speakers. And for those who are still interested to submit their research, who knows, we might just organize another E-fluence in the coming months, as we still have to endure lockdown and quarantine. And it's a great way to share and diffuse knowledge while we are in this situation. So with that, I would like to leave a final reminder to please check back on the Philippine Young Water Professionals Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channel, for the evaluation survey of this webinar. And that's how you will receive a certificate, and also to be eligible for the raffle, as well as to receive a special discount code for your membership in the International Water Association. With that, I would like to thank you once again for being with us for E-fluence 2020, and keep safe. We'll see you soon in the next PIPE activities. Bye for now.